Who said this? The embargo doesn't work. It is a failed policy. If we think engagement works well with China, well, it ought to work well with Cuba. Obviously, a lot of people have said something like that, but those exact words were said by a Republican, a prominent Republican, who also said this about the embargo. I think it's become more of a crutch for Castro to use to repress his people. All the problems he has, he blames the American embargo. The Republican who said that wasn't so prominent in 2002 when he spoke those actual words. And since then, his argument has only gotten stronger because we've had another 12 years of the embargo not working. Remember, supporters of the embargo say that it will eventually topple the Castro regime. That is their definition of the embargo working. The embargo will drive the Castro brothers right out of power. The Republican who said the embargo doesn't work knows that that's impossible. But at the time, his political career depended on winning votes in a state that borders Canada. He never had to think about winning votes in Florida, but as soon as he did have to think about winning votes in Florida, he stood up at a Cuban restaurant in Miami and said this.
I learned from these friends, from Mario, from Lincoln, from Ileana, just how brutal the Castro regime is. Just how this president's policy of appeasement is not working. They've given me a great education, lots of us in Congress, about how we need to clamp down on the Castro regime. And let me tell you this, in a Mitt Romney administration, we will not keep practicing this policy of appeasement. We will be tough on this brutal dictator. All it has done is rewarded more despotism. It has rewarded more cycles, and we will help those pro-democracy groups. We will be tough on Castro, tough on Chavez. And it's because we know that that's the right policy for our country.
Notice that Paul Ryan didn't say the embargo is working. That's what makes this an exquisite bit of rhetorical pandering. It has the key phrases that Castro haters want to hear: brutal dictator, tough on Castro. You can think that Fidel Castro was a brutal dictator, as Paul Ryan and I do, and at the same time think that the embargo doesn't work, as Paul Ryan and I do. Paul Ryan's pandering was perfect because it did not directly contradict anything he had actually said before. Paul Ryan knew there was no rational economic or foreign policy case to make for the embargo, and so he didn't. But what did his pandering on the embargo win him, that rhetorical pandering? Well, he was reelected to his House seat in Wisconsin, where no one cared about what he said about the embargo. And he was on the bottom half of the losing presidential ticket in Florida, where, as it turned out, not enough people cared about his pandering for the Cuban American vote, including Cuban Americans.